When most people think of New York, they picture skyscrapers, crowded streets, bright lights, and one of the busiest cities on Earth. But beyond New York City lies an entirely different world. A land where mountains are still rising, where glaciers carved lakes deeper than skyscrapers are tall, where rivers mysteriously reverse their flow every single day, where ancient volcanoes, underground rivers, and frozen caves tell a story that began hundreds of millions of years ago. New York isn't just America's most famous state, it's one of its oldest, wildest, and most geologically fascinating. Today, we're exploring 15 incredible facts that reveal the hidden side of the Empire State. Welcome to Planet Earth Explorer. Let's begin. When people hear the word park, they usually imagine something they can cross in a few hours. Adirondack Park completely destroys that expectation. Covering more than 6 million acres, it is larger than Yellowstone, Yosemite, Glacier, Grand Canyon, and Great Smoky Mountains National Parks combined. It's roughly the size of the entire state of Vermont. Unlike most protected areas, Adirondack Park isn't entirely public land. It's a unique mix of forests, lakes, mountains, villages, and private property, all protected under one of the strongest conservation laws in America. More than 3,000 lakes, over 30,000 miles of rivers and streams, and thousands of square miles of untouched forest. From space, it appears as an enormous green island surrounded by civilization. But inside, it feels like one of the last true wildernesses in the eastern United States. If you look at a satellite image of central New York, you'll notice something strange. 11 long, narrow lakes stretching across the landscape like giant fingers. These are the Finger Lakes, and they weren't created by rivers, they were carved by glaciers. More than 20,000 years ago, ice sheets nearly a mile thick slowly moved across this region. As they advanced, they scraped away enormous amounts of rock. When the glaciers finally melted, they left behind deep valleys that quickly filled with water. Some of these lakes are astonishingly deep. Seneca Lake reaches more than 600 feet below the surface. Its immense volume stores heat throughout the year, creating a unique microclimate that allows vineyards to flourish despite New York's cold winters. An entire wine region exists today because giant glaciers passed through here thousands of years ago. Standing on the shore of Lake Ontario feels strangely familiar, not because it resembles another lake, but because it looks like the ocean. The horizon disappears completely. You can't see the opposite shore. Although it's the smallest of the Great Lakes by surface area, Lake Ontario reaches depths of more than 800 feet. It receives water from all 4 upstream Great Lakes before sending it toward the Atlantic Ocean through the St. Lawrence River. Its enormous volume stores enough fresh water to supply entire nations. Powerful storms regularly generate waves several meters high. Some even resemble miniature hurricanes. Despite looking peaceful on sunny days, Lake Ontario is one of North America's most powerful freshwater systems. Few people expect to find Arctic vegetation in New York. Yet, that's exactly what exists at the summit of Mount Marcy. At 5,344 feet, it's the highest point in the state. Above the tree line, the landscape changes dramatically. Dense forests suddenly disappear. Instead, tiny alpine plants cling to exposed rock while fierce winds sweep across the summit. These fragile species are survivors from the last ice age. Some have existed here for thousands of years. Today, less than 100 acres of true alpine tundra remain in the entire state. It's one of the rarest ecosystems in eastern North America. Standing on Mount Marcy feels less like hiking through New York and more like visiting northern Canada. Most rivers always flow in one direction. The Hudson River doesn't. For more than 150 miles, the Hudson is actually a tidal estuary connected directly to the Atlantic Ocean. Twice every day, incoming tides push enormous volumes of seawater upstream. The current literally reverses. Boats floating near Albany can sometimes drift north, then hours later drift south, without ever turning around. The indigenous Mohican people noticed this long before European explorers arrived. They called it the river that flows both ways. Even today, this constant movement creates one of North America's richest estuaries, where fresh water mixes with salt water and countless species thrive. It's one of the few places where the ocean reaches deep into the heart of a state. Most mountain ranges spend millions of years slowly shrinking. Wind, rain, ice, and gravity gradually wear them away. But the Adirondack Mountains are doing something extraordinary. They're still rising. Every year, the entire mountain dome lifts by nearly 2 millimeters. It may not sound like much, but over thousands of years, that slow movement becomes impossible to ignore. The reason lies deep beneath the Earth's surface. Unlike the nearby Appalachian Mountains, the Adirondacks sit above an unusual geological hotspot where the crust is thinner than normal. Heat rising from the mantle gently pushes the entire region upward like an enormous bubble. Ironically, the rocks themselves are among the oldest in North America. Some formed more than 1 billion years ago. Yet the mountains we see today are surprisingly young in geological terms. Standing on an Adirondack summit means standing on one of the few mountain ranges in the world that continues to grow before your very eyes. When people think of enormous canyons, they usually picture Arizona. Few realize that New York has one of its own. Letchworth State Park is often called the Grand Canyon of the East. Over thousands of years, the Genesee River carved a spectacular gorge nearly 600 feet deep. 3 massive waterfalls thunder through the canyon before the river continues north toward Lake Ontario. Towering cliffs of shale and limestone reveal layer after layer of ancient Earth history. Each rock tells the story of seas that vanished hundreds of millions of years ago. During autumn, the canyon becomes even more spectacular. Brilliant red, orange, and golden forests surround the dark stone walls, creating one of the most breathtaking landscapes in the northeastern United States. It's difficult to believe this hidden canyon exists only a few hours from New York City. Across the Hudson River, enormous dark cliffs rise hundreds of feet above the water. These are the Palisades, and they began forming nearly 200 million years ago. At that time, North America was still joined to Africa as part of the supercontinent Pangaea. As the continents slowly began pulling apart, molten magma forced its way between layers of rock beneath the surface. The magma cooled slowly over thousands of years. Eventually, erosion stripped away the softer rock above, revealing the towering volcanic walls we see today. Their striking vertical columns are the result of cooling lava cracking into geometric patterns. Long before New York's skyscrapers dominated the skyline, these ancient cliffs already watched over the Hudson Valley. The landscape above New York is impressive, but another world exists beneath it. Hidden below rolling farmland lies Howe Caverns, a vast underground cave system created over millions of years as flowing water slowly dissolved thick layers of limestone. Descending into the caves feels like entering another planet. Gigantic chambers stretch into darkness. Thousands of stalactites hang silently from the ceiling. Towering stalagmites rise from the cave floor. Deep inside, an underground river still flows through the passages. Visitors even travel by boat across an underground lake where complete darkness surrounds them. No matter the season above, the caves remain a constant 52 degrees Fahrenheit. A timeless underground world that has barely changed since long before humans ever arrived. Fire and water rarely exist together, yet deep inside Chestnut Ridge Park, they do. Hidden behind a small waterfall burns a mysterious flame. Known as eternal flame falls, this unusual phenomenon has fascinated visitors for decades. The explanation begins deep underground. Natural gas slowly escapes through cracks in ancient shale rock. When the gas reaches the surface, it can be ignited. Because the flame sits inside a protected hollow behind the falling water, it continues burning despite the constant spray. Only a handful of similar places exist anywhere on Earth. Standing before eternal flame. Falls almost feels impossible. a waterfall that refuses to extinguish a living flame. It's one of New York's most magical geological wonders. Most cliffs remain unchanged for thousands of years. The chimney bluffs don't. Every winter, every storm, every crashing wave slowly reshapes them. Rising nearly 200 feet above the southern shore of Lake Ontario, these towering spires look more like the deserts of the American West than the forests of New York. Their story began at the end of the last ice age. As enormous glaciers melted, they left behind huge hills of clay, gravel, and sand. Over thousands of years, wind, rain, and powerful lake waves carved these deposits into razor-sharp towers and narrow ridges. Unlike solid rock, these cliffs are surprisingly fragile. A single storm can erase entire sections of the landscape. No visit is ever exactly the same. Nature is constantly redesigning the chimney bluffs, making them one of New York's most dynamic geological wonders. Imagine finding ice. In the middle of August, deep inside Minnewaska State Park, that's exactly what happens. Hidden among narrow rock crevices are the famous ice caves. Even when temperatures soar above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, pockets of snow and ice can remain trapped underground. The explanation is surprisingly simple. Cold air is heavier than warm air. During winter, freezing air sinks into the deep cracks between the rocks. Once trapped, it has nowhere to escape. The thick stone walls protect it from the summer heat, creating a natural refrigerator. Step inside one of these crevices, and the temperature instantly drops. Plants normally found hundreds of miles farther north survive here thanks to this remarkable microclimate. It's a frozen piece of the Arctic, hidden in the forests of New York. Its name is misleading, because there aren't 1,000 islands here. There are 1,864. Stretching across the St. Lawrence River between the United States and Canada, the Thousand Islands form one of North America's most beautiful freshwater archipelagos. To qualify as an official island, a piece of land must remain above water all year and support at least 2 living trees. Some islands are large enough for castles, luxury homes, and entire villages. Others barely have enough room for a single tree. From above, the river resembles an enormous puzzle made of emerald islands floating in crystal clear water. It's almost impossible to believe that this landscape was shaped by retreating glaciers thousands of years ago. Today, it's one of the most spectacular freshwater island systems on Earth. Cities usually grow upward. Manhattan also grew outward. Much of Lower Manhattan didn't exist a few centuries ago. Large sections of the island were built by humans. Over hundreds of years, New Yorkers expanded the shoreline by dumping millions of tons of rock, soil, and construction debris into the surrounding rivers. Entire neighborhoods now stand where ships once sailed. Battery Park City, parts of the financial district, and sections of the waterfront all rest on artificial land. Comparing old maps with modern satellite images reveals just how dramatically Manhattan has expanded. The island itself has literally changed shape. It's a reminder that geography isn't always created by nature. Sometimes, humans reshape the land on an astonishing scale. Imagine a single drop of rain landing on a quiet hillside in western New York. Its journey depends on only a few inches. If it falls on one side, it eventually reaches the Atlantic Ocean through the St. Lawrence River. If it lands nearby, it flows into the Allegheny River, then the Ohio, then the Mississippi, finally reaching the Gulf of Mexico. Move just a little farther, and that same raindrop enters the Susquehanna River before emptying into Chesapeake Bay. This remarkable location is known as the Triple Divide, one of the rarest hydrological features in North America. Standing there, you're looking at one of the continent's greatest invisible crossroads. 3 completely different watersheds begin from the same hill. Proof that geography can completely change the destiny of something as small as a single drop of water. From mountains that are still rising, to waterfalls hiding eternal flames, from glaciers that carved enormous lakes, to underground rivers flowing through ancient caves. New York is far more than towering skyscrapers and crowded streets. It's a land shaped by fire, ice, water, and hundreds of millions of years of geological history. Every mountain tells a story. Every river follows an ancient path. Every landscape reveals another chapter in the incredible history of our planet. And perhaps that's what makes New York so extraordinary. The farther you travel from the city, the more surprising the Empire State becomes. So, which fact amazed you the most? Tell us in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for another adventure here on Planet Earth Explorer. Until next time, keep exploring.